Hello everyone, welcome back to Fix the Family. My name is Raylan Alamo and we are bringing you Truth Without Compromise for the family. Welcome back. We are in studio once again for our 6th season here in the fall of 2015. Got a brand new series for you this season, and we're going to be talking about Catholic masculinity. We're going to celebrate the differences and the distinctions between male and female, some characteristics and traits and virtues that men possess, and how we men can put those into practice in our day-to-day lives as Catholics, with that Catholic light shed on it like we always do. In this first segment, we're going to talk about the characteristic of strength. And within strength, we're going to cover a few other topics, that of stamina, courage, consistency, and then the use of purity, the virtue of purity, in order to help us to maintain our strength. Now, strength, what word came to mind, or what picture came to mind when you heard that word strength? You might see a masculine, muscular man, an athlete, maybe football player, a boxer or something. And what is the reason God has given men the strength that they possess? Is it to dominate others? Of course not. That strength that we possess is there for us to protect those who are maybe smaller or weaker than we are. Man was created first by God, and then He created woman from man in order for her to assist him, and He in turn reciprocates by protecting her. And if we look at it in today's light, in today's world, is there maybe a difference from how in the past and in past ages that strength had to be used? Men had to be strong to protect their families from wild beasts, or maybe from natives that would attack, or things like that. In today's world, we use our strength in different ways. How is it in today's world that we might see this strength played out? Let's talk about the topic of stamina. Stamina is strength over the long haul. So we will be using our strength day in and day out, the daily grind of a job, and that's what men were meant to do. How do we know this? Let's look back at Genesis. When Adam and Eve first sinned, and God enters the garden, and He addresses the woman. What does He tell the woman? He tells her, "I will multiply thy sorrows and thy conceptions." But to Adam He says, "Because thou hast hearkened the voice of thy wife, cursed is the earth in thy work, with labor and toil shalt thou eat thereof all the days of thy life." Woman's redemption would come through her pains in childbirth. Man's redemption would come through his toiling and laboring for his family's food, clothing, and shelter. So we can look and see where it is our responsibility as men. Very often, we will see women will expect to also have a job, and men will expect them to do a job as well and have an income. That's really not what God intended. If we look at that with honesty, and we look at the state of the family, we'll see that having both mother and father work outside the home very much weakens the family, and often will cause the breakdown, will cause that family to split, will cause trouble in that marriage. And a lot of times it's caused by contraception, because whenever a mother has to work, if she has another child, that child is going to get in the way of her job. And so if she expects to return to work, she will often resort to contraception, which we know is a mortal sin and prohibited of its use by the church. Men, this is our responsibility. We have the stamina that God has given us for strength over the long haul to work in careers 30, 40 years. So it's our job to do, and we need to enable our wives to stay home and take care of the children, be there for those kids. Next, let's talk about courage. Now, courage isn't necessarily the absence of fear, but more so the overcoming of fear. And if we have any kind of fears from a spiritual standpoint, we could always just stop and say, well, start looking for the devil, because he is the one that brings about any fear. As Catholics, we really have nothing to fear unless we are in a state of mortal sin. If we're not in a state of grace, then we probably do need to fear something. We need to get to confession and be absolved of those sins, because we could be lost to hell if we die in that situation. But other than that, we really have nothing to fear. We should go forward in life, living our life and doing the best in whatever our tasks and responsibilities are. Let's look at what the Catechism says about fear. In paragraph 1765, it says, the apprehension of evil causes hatred, aversion, and fear of the impending evil. This movement ends in sadness at some present evil or in the anger that resists it. Does that sound like something of God? Of course not. One of the greatest manifestations I see of fear in people, in men, we're talking about men here especially, is a fear of failure. This can stop men in their tracks, and they will be petrified and prevented from doing just about anything. If there's something we're called to do and we have to do it, then we shouldn't fear any failure. A lot of times, we will have to have some defeats and failures in order to accomplish something, to become successful at something. We shouldn't fear that. That's just called experience. That's not failure. That is a path toward success. So we need to be willing to do that and have the humility to fail at things in order to become better at them. Another common fear I see a lot of people have is a fear of poverty. It's just a common thing amongst people. It's just human nature. That's one of the greatest fears that people possess. But let's look around us. Here in the United States of America, which is the majority of our audience and where we're filming here, has there ever been a society that has been more developed and wealthier than the culture in which we live now? Probably not. So we really shouldn't have any fear of any kind of poverty. We might have some inconveniences. We might have some things that might not go as we would like, or not have all of the luxuries that we might want. But I don't think we have any need to fear poverty or of that possibly coming about in any way. Finally, let's next talk about consistency. Consistency is going to pave the way for our strength to take effect in the things we're trying to do. I believe this is one of the core strengths that men possess, because our nature is consistent. It's within our nature to be consistent, especially distinguished from that of the female nature. We'll see that she changes, especially she'll go through cycles, a monthly cycle in a lot of cases, and at different periods in her life, she'll change. But we pretty much are going to be the same day in and day out. To be successful at anything, we have to be consistent with it. We can't just try to do something once a week or here or there and expect that we're going to make any headway with it. We need to get those things done day in, day out, and move forward in the things that we want to develop, be it a business we're trying to run, or our family, or athletics, or anything at all that we're wanting to do. We need to be consistent with. Additionally, we need to realize that whatever it is that we are consistent with is going to yield the results that we're going to get, positive or negative. For instance, if someone is smoking, we know that smoking can cause lung cancer and all sorts of other health problems. Now, somebody takes that first puff, they might not affect them at all. They might smoke for a year and not affect them, or just very little. But if you consistently do that every day for years and years and years, you can count on it that you will have severe health problems at some point. Finally, let's talk about purity and the virtue of purity in order to help us to maintain the strength that God has blessed us with. Men, we possess a very strong drive. We have the drive of our sexuality. It's stronger than any other drive we possess. We have a drive for power, or for money, or for all sorts of things. but that drive we have in our sexuality is the strongest. If we can learn to harness that and control it and point it in the right direction, we can control anything else about ourselves. And as dignified Catholics, that is precisely what we're supposed to do. So by practicing purity, we can help to build our strength and to maintain it. So in order to do this, we have to reject the temptations to lust. And Christ warns us that if a man lusts after a woman, looks at a woman with lust, he has already committed adultery with her in his heart. He says that in Matthew chapter 5, verse 28. So what do? We have to reject those temptations. We have to first start by not going to places that may be causing temptation. Those are called near occasions of sin. We need to avoid those situations, places, and people that might cause us to lust. Sometimes we're in a situation where we can't avoid that place or that person. Maybe in the workplace, maybe in the market, places we have to go. Then we need to use that as our training ground and start to develop some good habits, some habits of turning our eyes away, maybe leaving a situation that might lead to a temptation, or cleaning our thoughts, not entertaining impure thoughts. It's all these practices that we have to continue to do, and again, this helps to build our strength. This is a virtue that's really undeveloped in most men because the society around us doesn't encourage us to develop it. And why is that? So that we can, so that our strength isn't built, so that we're weaker men, and it diminishes all of society and it destroys families. We could see the devil at work there. So we need to turn to God's teaching in the church and make sure that we do practice this purity that it commands of us, and it's going to have a natural benefit to us in helping to build our strength. So there's our discussion on strength here in our series on Catholic masculinity. Come back and see us next time when we'll talk about training here at Fix the Family. My name is Raylan Alamo. God bless you.